People often say Africa is its own worst enemy. As painful as that sounds, sometimes it feels closer to the truth than we'd like to admit. What if the real danger doesn't come from far-off countries in the West, but from right next door? Burkina Faso is now facing a shocking betrayal that feels straight out of a spy movie. A hidden network of spies and traitors has been uncovered not in the dark corners of Burkina Faso's capital, but across the border in Ivory Coast. That's right, a neighboring country, supposedly a close ally. Burkina Faso's intelligence services made the discovery. They found a secret base used by people trying to disrupt the country from the inside. Their mission? To slow down Burkina Faso's progress, and worse, to take down President Ibrahim Traoré. But what exactly is going on in this mysterious location just over the border? Who's funding it? And how are everyday Ivorians reacting? Are they part of it? Or are they being used too? What started as whispers of betrayal is now becoming an international crisis. This isn't just about borders anymore. It's about Africa's unity, whether the continent can truly come together, or if it will once again be torn apart from within. Since a plot was stopped on April 16th, Burkina Faso has been on high alert. A group of insiders tried and failed to carry out an attack. But the threat didn't disappear. It simply moved. It crossed the border, finding shelter in a neighboring country. A deep-rooted force is working from inside Burkina Faso's own security system. These aren't soldiers marching in plain sight. They are intelligence experts trained to uncover secrets, spot betrayal, and listen for the quietest clues. One of them made a breakthrough, a secret operations hub. Not in Burkina Faso, but right in the middle of Ivory Coast. The place? Atakube. It's a quiet part of Abidjan. But it's not just any neighborhood. It used to be a military zone during the violent Ivorian Civil War. Northern militias operated there. The area holds a dark past, and things get even more troubling. That base is tied to a man's rise to power, Alassane Ouattara. For those unfamiliar, Ouattara didn't come to power easily. He was backed by foreign players during a brutal conflict that divided Ivory Coast. Behind the curtain? France pulling strings, arming militias, and ensuring Ouattara won. Now, it seems, another silent war may be underway in the same place. No tanks, no bombs, just spies. And among them are Burkinabe citizens turned traitors. Their target? President Traoré. The entire Sahel region is feeling the impact. Because this is no longer just Burkina Faso's problem. It's regional. It's global. This story hits close to home. The real question now is, just how deep does this go? How far are these traitors and the people backing them willing to go to crush the changes President Traoré is trying to bring? Should anyone really be surprised anymore? If a man could start a brutal civil war in his own country that left thousands dead, what's stopping him from stirring chaos just across the border? And here's the twist most people don't talk about. Ivory Coast's president, Alassane Ouattara, is originally from Burkina Faso. Yes, the same country that he's now accused of undermining. In fact, reports say his father even owns a well-known house there. That personal connection makes the situation feel even more like a betrayal. It's not just political anymore, it's deeply personal. During the Ivorian Civil War, that same house in Abidjan was used to train northern rebels. Now, it's said to be back in action reborn as a secret base meant to destabilize not just Burkina Faso, but the entire Sahel region. And this isn't just rumor anymore. Burkinabe intelligence didn't just find the location, they found a name too. Bazi Mathieu. He's said to be one of the key players, a man pulling strings behind the scenes. Everything took a sharp turn when Burkina Faso's forces raided his apartment and seized his phone. For most, that would have been a dead end. The phone was locked, wiped, encrypted. But Burkina Faso's intelligence cracked it. What they found changed everything. Files, conversations, contact lists, and detailed plans. Not vague hints, solid proof. The kind of material that turns speculation into certainty. And now everyone's asking, who exactly is Bézi Mathieu? What role is he playing in this high-stakes regional conflict? And most importantly, who is he really working for? The deeper we look, the darker the picture becomes. According to reports, Bézi isn't just some outside agitator. He's Burkinabe, one of their own. But instead of standing with his country during a crucial time, he chose to go against it. Instead of helping protect a nation pushing for change, he joined the forces trying to drag it back into the past. Let's be real. Many who say they want a return to civilian rule in Burkina Faso aren't doing it out of love for democracy. They're driven by power, by money. And Bézi, he was in it for both. This wasn't just about beliefs, it was about ambition. And it came at a cost. Bézi was one of the main architects behind the failed coup attempt on April 16th, aimed at removing Captain Ibrahim Traoré and throwing the country into chaos. But the plan failed. Why? Because some people still chose loyalty over betrayal, even in dark times. The plot was exposed, the network collapsed, and Bézi, he fled. Where to? Ivory Coast. But he wasn't treated like a criminal there, not as a fugitive. He was welcomed as a partner. In just a few weeks, Bézi rose to an important position, head of the so-called Crackdown's Office of Investigation. The title might sound official, even boring. But behind the scenes, he was playing a much bigger role. He became the key link connecting disloyal Burkinabe soldiers, foreign funders, and hired mercenaries. With help from high-level Ivorian government insiders, the old Atakubi military base was quickly brought back to life. Not for peace, but for plotting. The old military base wasn't just brought back to life, it was turned into the command center for a new mission. This time, the goal was to break President Traoré, to throw Burkina Faso into chaos, and to stop a rising African nation in its tracks. Why? Because people like Bézi see independence as a threat. And freedom? It's bad for their business. Then came the breakthrough. A single phone, Bézi Mathieu's, wasn't just a piece of evidence. It was a map that exposed the whole operation. What investigators found on it shook the highest levels of Burkina Faso's leadership. A fund of 24 billion CFA francs. And it wasn't coming from the shadows, it was reportedly created by Ivory Coast's president, Alassane Ouattara. This wasn't hearsay, it was documented, tracked, and confirmed. This massive pool of money was set aside for one purpose, to remove Captain Ibrahim Traoré from power. But how was it going to be used? The plan was simple, yet terrifying. Buy loyalty. Bribe Burkina Faso's soldiers. Turn the country's local defense volunteers, the VDP, against each other. And when you compare this to what happened during the failed April 16th coup, the similarities are clear. It was the same playbook. But there's one thing that the plotters underestimated: loyalty. Not just from commanders, but from everyday citizens, young men and women, villagers, volunteer fighters, people who believe in a cause bigger than themselves. That loyalty is what saved the country. Some soldiers, even when faced with huge bribes, refused to betray their homeland. They exposed the conspiracy from within. Now imagine if they hadn't. If even one key person gave in to greed, Burkina Faso might have fallen. Traoré might have become just another name on the long list of African leaders quietly pushed out, this time not by war, but by betrayal. But the plan failed because one man's greed and another's foreign interference couldn't defeat a nation's spirit. Traoré's enemies still don't get it. You can pay for weapons. You can organize a coup. But loyalty? That can't be bought. Not in a country that's finally decided to stand on its own. But the outsiders and their allies still don't understand. Traoré didn't buy loyalty, he earned it. To the people of Burkina Faso, he isn't just a man in uniform, he's one of them. Unlike many presidents who lead from behind secure walls, far from danger, Traoré stays close to the front lines. He doesn't just talk to his soldiers, he stands with them. He defends them when others stay silent. We've seen it again and again. This isn't about politics, it's about belief. When his soldiers fall in battle, he doesn't just mourn, he acts. Just months ago, he worked to ensure the widows and families of fallen soldiers were taken care of and remembered with respect. He understands something many leaders forget. When a soldier knows their family will be protected, they'll fight with everything they have. Because that's what's truly at stake. That's why the loyalty in Burkina Faso runs so deep. Not because of fear, not because of money, but out of respect. And no amount of foreign cash, 24 billion francs or more, can ever buy that. Still, while power-hungry actors make deals in faraway capitals and mercenaries draw up plans, they all place their bets on the same mistake. They think loyalty is for sale. But in Burkina Faso, it's already been won. Loyalty comes with a cost. But in Burkina Faso, that cost is already being paid in dignity, in sacrifice, and in trust. What about President Traoré? He's not just surviving, he's leading a nation that is finally learning how to stand on its own. And that's exactly why he's a problem for those who profit from instability. Traoré's true power doesn't come from force or clever tactics. It comes from loyalty. That's what scares his enemies. That's why they're now trying to turn his own soldiers against him. Their strategy? The oldest trick in the book Money. History has shown us this time and again. Great powers don't always fall on the battlefield. They fall when their own people sell out. For gold, for power, for influence, people have betrayed leaders, friends, and even their own countries. It's part of human nature. And Burkina Faso's enemies know it. That's why Bézi Mathieu has turned to this approach. He knows there are cracks in the system. He knows not every soldier is loyal. And he's betting on that weakness. But will it work? That's the big question. It didn't work on April 16th. Some soldiers stayed loyal to Traoré, and because of them, the plot failed. They chose to protect their nation instead of taking a payout. Hopefully, they'll make the same choice again. But that wasn't the end of the plan. Files taken from Bézi's seized phone revealed something darker. Millions from that 24 billion CFA fund were set aside to hire mercenaries. Not African fighters, but foreign soldiers for hire. This is where the story gets even more dangerous. These aren't just regular soldiers. They're professional military contractors, elite, highly trained, and extremely well paid. They don't serve any flag or nation. They serve whoever pays them the most. These fighters come from all over the world: China, France, the UK, the US. They're scattered across Africa, often working quietly alongside local armies, rebel groups, or terrorists. They answer to no one but money. And usually, that money comes from powerful Western interests. So the idea that Western powers benefit from Africa's chaos? It's not just a theory. It's backed by fact. These private armies thrive in disorder. The more unrest there is, the more contracts they get. The more fear they spread, the more weapons they sell. And the longer Africa stays unstable, the tighter foreign powers grip the continent. This isn't just about war. It's a business. And today's battleground isn't only about land or politics, it's about loyalty. Can loyalty survive against this flood of money, mercenaries, and manipulation? Burkina Faso's enemies are betting it can't. But history tells us something else. Even in the worst of times, some people don't give in. Some still choose honor over betrayal. The troubling part? These mercenaries aren't even African. Many of them work for private military firms that have quietly built powerful networks across the continent. And now, there's an even more alarming twist. Some of these fighters are former French soldiers who once served in the Sahel. That's right. The same troops who used to patrol Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger in French uniforms are now coming back as hired guns. They know the terrain. They know the command structures. They know the weak spots. If these ex-commandos are working with rebel forces inside Burkina Faso, the outcome could be disastrous. Even if they're officially freelancers, they'll always feel loyal to their homeland, and that's France. And considering how President Traoré and the AES coalition embarrassed France by cutting ties and reclaiming their independence, there's no doubt Paris would welcome a chance to strike back. They might claim it's about restoring democracy, but the truth is far darker. At the heart of it all is control and payback. But this battle isn't just being fought with guns or soldiers. There's a war going on in the media, too. Evidence found on Bézi's phone reveals that part of the 24 billion CFA war chest, allegedly funded by Ivory Coast's president, was used to launch a media campaign. The goal? Pay off journalists, create fake news, twist the truth, and paint President Traoré as a dictator, a warlord, or a threat to peace. And sadly, this strategy is already in motion. Even a quick look at some of Ivory Coast's biggest news platforms shows the pattern. Every report about Traoré or Burkina Faso is negative, misleading, or just plain wrong. His reforms aren't mentioned. There's no coverage of how he's helped soldiers and their families. Just a steady stream of negative headlines meant to crush morale and turn the public against him. And perhaps the most painful part? It's Africans doing this to another African, selling out their own for money. That's the tough truth we're now facing. In a world where truth is bought and sold, staying loyal has become a radical act. It used to be that only the West tried to bring down Traoré's image. Now, it's African media joining in. There's a reason for this shift. Many Africans no longer trust Western media. People across the continent are waking up. They remember how the West used false stories to discredit leaders like Thomas Sankara and uncovered something even more alarming. Bézi isn't just a traitor working against his own country. He's deeply connected to Ivory Coast's security system. He's reportedly tasked with silencing political opponents of President Ouattara. In other words, the same man stirring up conflict across the border is also cleaning house at home. He's not just a hired hand, he's a weapon used for political control. Bézi's loyalty lies not with a country, but with whoever pays him the most. And now, his timing is especially dangerous. Ivory Coast's presidential election is just around the corner. October 2025. Tensions are rising. The political air is heavy, and candidates are scrambling for support. Unlike past elections, This one is shaping up to be more heated, more uncertain. And one name is shaking up the status quo. Laurent Gbagbo, the former president who once stood against French-backed forces. But the biggest surprise? Word is that Alassane Ouattara may run again after being in power since 2011. That's nearly 15 years. And the people? They're growing restless. In cities and rural towns alike, frustration is boiling over. The economy is struggling, opposition voices are being silenced, and many Ivorians are wondering how much longer can one man cling to power. Instead of calming tensions through dialogue or fair elections, Ouattara appears to be preparing for conflict, not with policies, but with operatives like Bézi. In times when staying in power becomes more important than democracy itself, men like Bézi become very useful. So this isn't just a political struggle between two neighboring countries. It's turning into a broader African crisis. While Burkina Faso is fighting to take a new path, Ivory Coast seems to be falling back into old habits. And at the center of it all, one man, pulling strings on both sides of the border. Two countries, and a dangerous path of betrayal that could bring both to the edge. But here's the sad twist. The very people President Alassane Ouattara claims to represent are starting to turn away from him. Intelligence reports say Bézi recently smuggled 4 foreign operatives into Burkina Faso. Their mission? To study the country's weak spots, gather secret information, and prepare for deeper infiltration. They were hiding out at what looked like a regular hotel, the Azalai Hotel, but it had already been flagged as suspicious. Thanks to the sharp instincts and persistence of Burkina Faso's soldiers, the mission failed. The mercenaries were caught before they could disappear. When interrogated, they talked. And what they revealed was far bigger than just one operation. It exposed a wide network designed to weaken the Burkinabe government, spread lies, and prepare for a major military strike. This isn't just about politics anymore. It's about who controls West Africa's future. And right now, that future is being written by traitors, funded by foreign powers, and executed by ex-soldiers who owe nothing to any flag or cause. The captured men confirmed the worst. Burkina Faso is under attack by a coordinated plan. They revealed that 5 fighter jets funded by Ouattara's war fund had been delivered for an upcoming strike. The goal? A full-scale assault on Ouagadougou, carried out by a mix of rogue Burkinabe soldiers, African fighters, and foreign mercenaries, some of whom were even mixed in with loyal troops. But it doesn't stop there. At the center of it all is Bézi Mathieu, who has been in regular contact with Djibril Bassolé, a powerful figure believed to be calling the shots. Djibril reportedly told Bézi that bringing down Burkina Faso was the key to destroying the entire AES alliance. Bézi's reply? "I'm ready." To cover their tracks, Djibril came up with one more move. Ivory Coast would launch a fake anti-terror campaign, backed by Western countries. They'd issue statements, hold press conferences, and make public shows of military strength, all to distract people from the fact that they're the ones behind the chaos. This war won't be fought only with weapons. It will also be waged with lies. And here's the hard truth: Africans are helping to tear down their own nations. While the West often gets the blame, the real damage has always come from within. Western powers couldn't exploit Africa without willing hands on the inside. Sadly, betrayal is nothing new in Africa's story. And what about the people of Ivory Coast? Some, blinded by nationalism, refuse to see their government's role. Others support Traoré and are beginning to speak out. Still, many accuse Burkina Faso of making everything up, even in the face of growing proof. But Traoré isn't standing still. Security has been tightened. Surveillance is up in key areas. This isn't just another coup attempt. This is a fight for Burkina Faso's survival. And this time, the people are ready. Because in the end, this is about much more than one president or one country. It's about the future of Africa itself, about whether the continent can truly be free, or if some will keep selling that freedom for personal gain. Traoré may be the target, but the real message is bigger than him. Africa will never be free until its people stop betraying it. But this time, the betrayal has been exposed. And now, the world is watching.